and welcome to the Women of Color in Business podcast. I am Linette Cottrell, your host, and I am so delighted you decided to join us today. We are going on a transformative journey of embracing radical self-love and unlocking the full potential in both our personal and business lives. This podcast is dedicated to empowering us, Black women entrepreneurs, to break free from self-limiting beliefs and guiding us towards our best self. So if you're just starting your business or you've been at it for a while but feel stuck, we got you. Welcome to your safe place. We honor your unique business journey. Here is where you remove your mask, wear your own style of comfort, and get ready to soar. Together, we will grow exponentially and challenge the statistics of how our businesses headed and founded by Black women entrepreneurs, start, grow, and last. So enjoy this great episode and be sure to help us grow by letting your sisters in business know about us so they can also follow us, like us, give us 5 stars, and leave comments. We want to hear from you and know what you want to hear from us. Together, we're going to build a great ecosystem here, impacting the number of Black women-owned businesses that grow and last. All right, sisters, let's jump right into it. So hello, everyone. We are very happy to meet you here again today on the Women of Color in Business podcast. With us today, we have another brilliant and beautiful Black woman who's going to begin with sharing with you her name and her business.
Hi, my name is Randi Bryant, and I own Bryant Consulting Group, and I have an offshoot called Randi B.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Randi, let's start with how long have you been in business?
24 years.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
What inspired you to start your business?
Well, I came from a family, 2 families of entrepreneurs. On one hand, my mother was a professor at Hampton University, but she ended up also having a real estate business. But my grandparents also started, they were the candy store, the candy lady.
Oh, yeah.
My grandma was the candy lady, but eventually bought a brick and mortar. And so we had the store there that expanded. So it was like a country 7-Eleven because we sold meats and pickles and things. This was down in Texas. And
Okay,
on
Texas.
the laundromat. But then I decided to have kids. So once I decided I wanted to have children, I wanted the flexibility to be the parent I wanted, but I also wanted to make some money and needed to
Got
make
you.
some money.
Got you. Got you. So, Randi Consulting, tell us a little bit about what you do there.
So it's a change management company where we work on preparing companies for better environments. We help the change. So people are resistant to change.
Mm-hmm.
So when a company would come in and move to a different operating system, or they would bring on a new product or something like that, we were the people who would help them with this change. So we've worked from huge government agencies to a lot of private industries, to subway authorities, we've been all over working with change because, people are naturally resistant to change.
Yes.
But I became interested in it because I wanted to create better environments, more when I look at diversity, equity, and inclusion. We didn't call it that back then, but really to have teams work better and to create environments where everybody felt more accepted and that they had a chance to grow and felt safe.
Right.
So DEI was always we didn't call it that, but that was always my focus and love. But there was not a lot of money back then. So I was, I was going where the money was and doing and accepting what contracts we could get.
Okay, okay. But thinking about just the concept of change and how adverse we can be to change. As entrepreneurs, it is something that can sometimes cost us a lot of money because we are resistant to keep up with changes in our industry. We're resistant to learning new things, and we're resistant to pivoting when we need to pivot, right? When what we started out doing we kind of see that that's not working, but we want to just stick with it anyway.
That is such a good point. As I tell
Yes,
people, I say, you don't want to be Blockbuster, right?
right, exactly, exactly.
Blockbuster used to be so popular and all
Yes,
relied on it, but they were kind of refused to change because
they
I
did.
they were scared to change what was working because it did work for a long time.
Yes, exactly. So thinking about that, what have you seen as one of the very prevalent things you notice when you go in to a corporation and you're handling the issue of change with the employees?
People are definitely resistant. I believe people are scared sometimes how it will affect their jobs.
Hmm.
Sometimes we have to learn new skills, and once we pass a certain age, we don't want to do that necessarily.
Right.
We wonder what was wrong with the old way. So I would say the majority of the time people don't like change. And what's interesting is that we'll often say we want different things. So we'll say, oh, we're not being as productive or we're wasting a lot of time. But when we come in with the solutions, then people oftentimes are resistant. So yeah, what people say about change and wanting it is true. But if you do it in a way that makes people feel safe and comfortable, and more importantly, that they're a part of it and you get people's buy-in,
There you
then
go.
it goes much better.
Right,
Getting people's
right.
buy-in and letting them feel as if they have a voice.
Right, right. That's key. I love that you brought that up because a lot of times that can be the biggest issue. Not that what's being changed is not good or that it doesn't make sense, but just that I didn't have a voice in it. And I feel like it's just being told to me what I have to do as opposed to getting my opinion and getting my buy-in, right? Because eventually, if it makes sense, I'm going to say, well, that makes sense. That's a good idea.
Right.
So that's a great
And,
point.
and knowing the why. Why are we making this change? Sometimes
Um,
a company will come in and say, "Oh, we're switching to Microsoft, right?" Or something.
right.
And people need to know why. Why? Maybe they're making the change because it's more secure or it saves money. But you have to give people a reason why. And no one likes, it's almost like the weather. We feel so much better when we get a forecast.
Yeah,
Right? We can handle it if there is some change.
right.
But at least let us know what can I expect during the week. And we become upset when we're out and about and it starts raining. We say the weatherman didn't tell us it was going to rain. We become upset. So if we are aware, we can prepare and we
Okay.
accept change better.
That's a wonderful way to put it it makes it very easy to visualize, right? Because everybody understands what it feels like to be caught in the rain, right?
Right.
You don't have an umbrella, you don't have a raincoat. You thought it was going to be sunny all day, and here it is raining. Now you have to run to do something.
You have to run. I was actually just
Right.
seeing a meme the other day that black women in particular will use anything to protect our hair from the rain. So so
Right. You got a
we'll
purse, you
find
keep
a
the
paper
purse.
bag in there.
Yes,
It'll be fine.
yes.
Yes.
Exactly, exactly. So you spoke briefly about having entrepreneurs around you in your family, and a lot of solopreneurs who start out don't have that experience. So can you share with us how you feel that experience kind of shaped you and made your journey different?
It's a really interesting question because while my mother was an entrepreneur, she had the steady job of being a professor. And while my grandmother was the candy lady, it was almost an accidental entrepreneurship because it grew. And my grandfather was working in steel mills. So when I said I wanted to have this business, and at first when I was teaching high school.
Okay.
The people that you would have thought would say, "Great, wonderful, this is awesome." I said, "Girl, you got you a good job
Ooh.
with good benefits. you're in a great school system.
Yes.
At the time, my husband was in law school. No, he was at the end, just starting his career. And I was called everything. My mom didn't play, and Black Southern woman. And so she was not happy about my entrepreneurial spirit whatsoever.
Mm,
And it was
mm,
very, um, yeah, they thought it was very dangerous and
mm.
foolish of me. So, somewhere what they did definitely seeped in my soul, but their
Right.
voices were certainly not cheering my journey.
Right.
Yes.
That's very interesting. I'm glad you shared that, and I'm glad we're talking about this because sometimes we think that when you come from entrepreneurs that you automatically get that support, right? That it's almost expected. But to your point, I guess it depends on how their journey was for them, right? If their journey, if they felt like it was a struggle, a constant struggle to keep up, then when you say you're stepping out to do that, they kind of feel the same way. Oh, I want to save her from this struggle, right? I want to encourage her to just stick with the job because it was a struggle, right? We did it, but it
Right.
was a struggle. Yeah.
Which entrepreneurship is. And I
Right.
believe that there is greater fear when you are a woman of color. I mean, as a Black woman, the odds of making it sometimes are no are not in your favor.
Yes, yes.
And so if you have, as a having Black parents and grandparents, they had the fears that I believe come with, that are a burden and being Black in America.
Right.
Do you really have, a shot at making it? It's going to be so hard. And of course,
Right.
when you've lived through something, you want things to be easier for your own children. So,
Yes.
so here I am, and I would say I've been a pretty successful entrepreneur for the most part, but I have two sons. And if they came to me today and said, they're 22 and 24, and said, "Hey, mom, I want to start my own business," I'll be honest with you, I would have some hesitation and fear for them because
Mhm.
I want life to be, of course, as smooth as possible. And we know sometimes being an entrepreneur, you're worried about income being steady.
Right, right. Yes, there's a lot of things. So that brings up a very good point. So when we think about the entrepreneur process within itself, just without being a Black woman and just the entrepreneur process, it's a challenge.
Mhm.
It's a challenge for any human being, right? But then you add on the layers of being Black in America, then being female and Black in America
Woo!
and the statistics
Woo!
just blow out the which is why we're here right now because the we Black women entrepreneurs are the least supported,
Yes.
the least funded, and then when organizations create funding specifically for us, they are attacked. They are attacked. They
Oh,
are
yes.
taken to court so it can be torn down. So it's like we already only get like 2% or less of the funding available for businesses.
Right.
We get less than 2%.
I thought it was
So
less than
that
1%.
yeah,
Yes.
so that 2% is being attacked. That's
Right.
still 2%, right? So we are out here brave. I say we're all brave souls.
Oh, you have to be extraordinarily brave.
Yes, yes. Stepping out to build businesses with no support, with the basically no funding, with anything that is for us gets attacked so that we can no longer have access to it. And with all that, we still dare to step out and build something, right?
Yeah.
So, and once we do that, so I guess this kind of goes back to you and your parents and your grandparents, because once you've done it, you know what it took for you to do it. And you're thinking, oh, it takes a special kind of person to make it through this and be successful,
Yes.
right? Because we're the fastest growing sector of new small businesses, but our challenge is staying in business and staying in business 5 years and beyond and growing our business beyond a job that we own. Because a
Right.
lot of us have a job that we own, meaning that if we're not doing it, it won't get done, and we're our only employee.
But
So,
I'll say though, to people that sometimes is okay because oftentimes the reason why we are escaping traditional jobs is because of the stress, the other types of stress, right?
Right, right.
Where, the other barriers we face are the microaggressions that we're coming in contact with, or the clarity that we come to at a certain point that we're never going to break that glass ceiling or feel respected. And it takes an emotional toll on us. And
Definitely.
so sometimes, even though we are working, doing 99.999% of the work,
Right.
but it's worth it, right? It works out for us.
For that peace of mind. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Right. So
Because I mean, it's tough.
it is. It definitely is. So it's that challenge of knowing how tough it is. And another thing about entrepreneurship, and I really want to get your take on this, but what I've learned is that it's really a spiritual journey, and it's really a mindset journey, because any trauma, any challenges, anything that happened to you that you haven't dealt with, you're going to have to deal with it to really achieve greatness in your business,
Mm. Yeah.
because it takes all of you to be successful. So any part of you that you're not utilizing, you're going to have to start using it, right? You can't just get by with it in business. So I tell people you need three things to run a business. You need a therapist on one side, you need a business coach on the other side, and you need to have radical self-love for yourself in the center of it, because your therapist is going to help you deal with what happened in the past and what limiting beliefs you're dealing with in the past. Your business coach is going to push you beyond what you're comfortable doing in the fun activities you like to do. They're going to push you to set goals that's going to make you get uncomfortable and do things you're not comfortable doing. And then your radical self-love is going to keep you accountable to stay the course, to not give up, to not quit, to know you're capable. You're just going to go ahead and get it done.
Yes. Yes. I was at a Pilates retreat this past, I think it was November, put on by a dear friend, a sister who has her own business.
Mhm.
And she brought in, I think it was about 16 of us, other Black women, for this Pilates retreat. And you could do other activities at the resort outside of Pilates. And I signed up to do this obstacle course. And that was in the air. And
Oh, wow.
ended up with the most difficult one. I don't know why. And before you go down, they show you all the equipment, and you have to tell the person that, tells you, guides you up. They ask you, "Do you trust me?" And you say yes. And then there's a person that's all the way at the top before you climb, and they yell down, "Are you Randy? Randy, do you trust me?" And you say yes. And I felt pretty confident at first, but then as I started going up, I'm shaking. I'm shaking.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
shaking so hard, and I'm not scared of height. And I said, "Well, you said you trusted the equipment, you trusted the people who were guiding you." And I realized I didn't trust myself.
Ah.
And I did not trust myself.
Mm.
And that was a huge revelation for me. And I believe that what I have struggled with throughout my years, and I'm talking as of when I started to probably earlier today,
Uh-huh.
are feelings of trusting myself
Ah.
and feeling as if I am capable and worthy of owning a business, of doing what I'm doing. I have never needed to cheer anybody on as much as I've had to cheer myself on being a
Mhm.
business owner, because you do live with self-doubt, and that is where the therapist comes in. But then
Mhm.
when you own a business, you get criticized all the time. It's always your fault, right? If
Right.
you and unfortunately, we tend to receive and hear the bad and not receive and hear the good as much.
Yes. Yeah.
So in my offshoot, where I do a lot of DEI work, with Randi B, I could have 5,000 comments in a week that are so positive and wonderful. And I'm telling you, those five that were not kind
Right.
sometimes make it hard to get out of the bed the next day. And
Mm.
so it's telling yourself that, trusting yourself and saying, I'm good at this. I'm worthy of this. all those things. And that trust, another way it affects, I believe, women in particular, comes even with payment, like with money,
Yeah.
because I would not ask my worth for, and
Mhm.
I still don't. It was difficult for me to discuss money, and it was difficult in particular for me to ask what I was worth, like
Right.
what I deserved. And still to this day, like I'll feel guilty when people say, "Well, how much would it be for you to come speak?"
Uh-huh.
Because I've had, done this for a while, and I'm so incredibly uncomfortable. And I know as I'm working on myself is that I still have not fully embraced that I'm worthy and that I have
Right.
something valuable to offer. And I believe that is definitely a spiritual journey, and just coming into your own and trusting yourself and really embracing that you are worthy.
Oh, yes, I love everything you just said. Thank you for sharing that. That trust is something I had never thought about. But that's really deep to realize that you were trembling because you didn't trust you. Not the people up there, down there, or the equipment, but you. Like, can I do this?
And I do this.
Wow,
And
wow.
I make the right steps. That.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. And also you spoke about pricing, being able to price your service or your product for what you know it's worth, as opposed to thinking, well, someone else can charge that, but am what I'm doing worth that much, or will they pay me that much for what I'm doing?
Right,
Right? It's
right,
like that sense of belief. And someone was told me that one way to look at that is, what's the value that I'm giving? What is the value I'm giving worth? Right? And if they use what I'm giving them, how profitable will it be to them?
right.
Right?
But you
But you're
have to believe
still,
what you're providing is valuable. That
exactly,
is
you're still
valuable.
dealing with
So that
you
so you're
first.
right. That still comes back to
Right.
you. So what I'm doing is
Exactly.
truly valuable. I mean, some people
Exactly.
are outrageous and they go the complete opposite way,
Yes.
right? And you're like,
Yeah.
come on. But
Right.
really, it is, it really is trying to, but there really is something about knowing what you're worth. And I really appreciate, it's funny when people talk about allyship.
Uh-huh.
One of the greatest things I've ever seen people that call themselves allies do, and that act of allyship, is when uh, white people, non-people of color, share
Uh-huh.
what they make.
Hmm.
One time, people did that with speakers, and they said, "This is how much I
Oh,
get paid for
yes.
each speaking engagement." So you know,
Today's podcast is being sponsored by our Golden Cowrie Shells Academy, offering the first and only compassionate accounting course for and by Black women in business. Are you a Black woman entrepreneur who hates looking at the numbers, budgeting, and financial reports? You wish you had a partner to explain this difficult language of money to you in simple terms? Then we have created this course for you. Imagine being guided through automating and streamlining your business accounting processes and money pain points. Having all your questions answered by professionals with over 25 years of experience working with entrepreneurs just like you. Being welcome to a safe place where every question is valid and all answers are judgment free. Join our course, Counting Golden Cowrie Shells, the compassionate accounting course Black women in business deserve for building profits, financial freedom, and legacy. Visit our website today for more details and registration. www.wocib.org.
I've seen influencers, they've shared, this is how much I charge to run an ad. Because sometimes you
Right.
don't know what you
Right.
barely charge. You have no idea. You're new in the business. You may
Right.
have known what your company charged, but now here you are doing it solo. So what can I charge? And so I believe that is a form of active allyship when people share openly, and we get comfortable talking about money and say what
Exactly.
I charge. And so it helps other people set their price point and say, well, I know if A charges this, I certainly can charge this.
Exactly, exactly. It gives you a framework to work within. Okay, so if that's a realistic rate, because you're right, sometimes we don't know
I
what
don't
the
know.
rate should be. What's the going rate in the marketplace, right? Unless people share it. And I remember one time that was also done with writers. I remember black writers putting out there, this is how much I get, paid for doing a book. And then white writers would put, this is how much I make. And you
Right.
saw the glaring difference, and they were like,
Glaring
okay,
difference.
with the same publishing company now, but a glaring difference.
Mhm.
So those details, like you said, help a lot to know.
And we usually undervalue ourselves. I remember when you just made me think of it when my I did my first book, and I decided to have cartoons throughout the book because I was talking about some heavy subjects, and I thought it would help people to receive the information.
Uh-huh.
I had cartoons in the book, and so I started, interviewing cartoonists, and the publicist, not the publisher, the publisher looked at cartoonists, but I really wanted to hire a Black cartoonist.
Right,
Found a gentleman who was, had the longest running cartoonist in the Midwest and had all these accolades. And when I tell you that he offered the cheapest rate, I mean, by far. So let's
oh
say
wow.
that we had, and he was the only Black person who we would consider, well, I went after him.
Uh-huh.
So you had people who had just gotten out of art school or little that were charging these high prices. And here you had this person who had a name, who was, well seasoned and excellent. And, he undervalued himself. And said, listen, before we talk to this company, you need to charge a little bit more. I told him, right?
Right,
I do believe that again, it goes back to the fear that comes from, particularly like when you're a woman and of color, that
right,
you're scared to charge a certain amount. And I mean, I'm telling you, he was a man, a Black man, but
right.
it was dramatic. I'm not even talking. It was less than 50% of what other people
Oh
were.
wow.
Yes.
So yeah, so that says a lot. So that says how much um been making on his work, right? For him to have that price level that low, that's based on what he was receiving. And to your point, he didn't have any idea of what was really the going rate out there.
Because
So
probably he'd never been paid fairly.
exactly,
I believe it's
exactly.
fear. And sometimes, particularly when you're starting out in business, but it probably continues, we want so badly to get the money, like we
Yeah,
want the deal. And
yes.
so we will go so low. But
Right, right.
it's like
Just to close the deal, just
that's
to
the
have a
close deal.
win.
And most
Right.
of the time, people don't accept the lowest deal. And we need to realize that. Just like typically in a restaurant, if they have a list of wines, the least expensive wine is rarely ordered. People
Mm,
order in the middle. So
right.
don't even play that game. And sometimes people think you're worth what you're worth. Some business, we pay money for designer brands just because they charge a lot of money that makes it seem more exclusive.
Right, exactly, exactly. So, to your point, some of that can come into our business plan and our how we do business.
Mhm.
But yeah, so what we're talking about here is layers of societal things that affect how we operate as blacks in business, black women in business, the lack of information for a good comparison, right? And also being desperate to make the sale, to have a win, to
Yes.
just get something started. A lot of times we just want to just get the first three, let's get the first three sales. And to do that, we totally undercut ourselves. Yeah.
And then even when we are established, you still want to get those deals because you have to keep going on. And I
Right.
tell people, if you do cut a deal, think about how you can get value from that customer in other ways. So I remember one of my first big clients was Starwood Hotels and Resorts. And I was new and my company was small, but I knew I probably didn't charge them as much, but I said, listen, you have to write me a review. If
Uh-huh.
I do this, so because a review from Starwood Hotels and Resorts that I could put in other proposals, I knew would
Right.
go a long way,
I
right?
like that.
And
Yeah.
so that worked for me. It helped me to say,
Right.
okay, or you can say, I want you to refer me, or let's make this contract longer. I know you wanted a year contract, but I'll let you pay me a little less. Let's do 18 months. So think about also, you know, going back to being flexible, but what can you get outside of, maybe cash that
Mhm.
would work well for your business.
Right. Right. That's a good point. I like that. Getting a review and thinking about what else can I get
Hmm.
that would benefit me long term, long after this job is done. What can I get that would benefit me long term?
Hmm.
So, what do you see as one of your biggest challenges? So let's say, what was one of your biggest challenges getting started in business, and what do you see as a challenge today?
My biggest challenge
Mhm.
was I think for me, setting the prices in the beginning. I didn't know what I could charge as a consultant, and putting myself out there, not having a whole lot of marketing dollars. I'm not
Yes.
not Booz Allen, I wasn't Booz Allen, where I could, where I was in
Right.
my name. So letting people know what I did, and passing the word around. Luckily I had worked in a corporation as well, so letting people know that that's what I did, and trying to get people to take you seriously. So it's spreading the word, but also being very business about it. And so I wanted like marketing materials and stuff, but then that costs money. So it was just
Right.
that
Right.
cycle of trying to establish myself. And I always tell people, the best business to me is where you're providing a service and not a product, because it doesn't cost as much money. So I was starting my business on essentially nothing, but I did want a little bit of marketing dollars. So that was tough. But I was able to I got an American Express way back when, that I would not have been able to get, quite frankly, without a co-signer at that time.
Hmm.
Um, and that was just to get some basic marketing. That's
Right.
okay. We didn't have like the nice computers and things to do it ourselves. So that
Right.
helped a lot. And I would say my biggest challenge now, well, right now, I mean, I talk about the things people don't want to talk about.
Mhm.
So uh, making people want to have difficult conversations. I'm the person I told people it's like I'm almost like an oncologist. Some people don't want to see me,
Right.
right? Right. And so, I talk directly. I didn't do this before when I was, that's why I had to set like a side business for myself, is that I talk about race a lot, and people don't want to talk about race in America.
Right.
So having to make people get comfortable with being uncomfortable
Mm.
is difficult, and seeing the value in that, particularly now.
Okay. So when you talk about race, who are you usually talking to?
I talk to everybody. Surprisingly, there's still a need for it. People, we're not calling it DEI specifically, but there is a need for uh, companies to know how to treat people that are in marginalized groups, which is
Uh-huh.
what I do. And so, how do you ensure that everybody feels protected, seen? How do language is one of my big
Mm.
is. So, how do you have to learn how to speak people to people where they feel respected. So,
Right.
talking about common microaggressions, and talking about what you do when you make a mistake, and how you make a person feel safe with you again when you have said something that is offensive. And
Mm.
so, communication is something that all organizations need. So, and then those skills. So that's what I help people do. But understanding that communication is different based on our how we classify ourselves, right? So
Right.
just as there was the Me Too movement, because A lot of men only were not used to working with women. They were only used to having wives and girlfriends and daughters. They made a lot of communication mistakes, right?
Right, right.
It's the same thing. So but it really actually all of it is centered at the end of the day in me trusting myself and trusting
Mhm.
my calling and knowing this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm.
And what I have learned is that the more I trust myself, the money comes. Every time I've ever felt comfortable and said, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, regardless of how radical it seemed at the time, because I've changed, of course, in the last 20 something years.
Uh-huh.
The money has come, doors have opened up. So,
Mhm.
for instance, when I started my offshoot, Randi B, did it as I'm essentially retiring. I did it as the company will be there, that will continue, but I personally am retiring and I will just be more of an activist behind the scenes. And
Okay.
I start getting more speaking engagements, more questions to come train. But it came because I was speaking very candidly. I thought people would reject me, and it's been
Uh-huh. Hmm. So just being your authentic self. What?
that is the strength. That is the, I tell people, I said, think about every star we like, every, from Michael Jackson to Prince to Madonna to whomever you like out there.
Right, right.
Typically, we like the people who were courageous enough to be who they are and they stepped into it and they owned it. And sure, people may have talked about them, but people are going to talk about you anyway. But
Yeah.
when you say, I believe in this, and you do it, it blossoms.
Hmm. I like that. That's very powerful to be your authentic self.
Scary, but I think it pays off. And I do make
Yes.
money from that.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of part of entrepreneurship that's scary, right? There's a lot of stepping out and being uncomfortable and I think we as entrepreneurs get to a place where we understand that we're doing something we haven't done before, so it's going to feel unfamiliar. And that's that discomfort we feel. So we at some point we have to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable because
Right. Yeah, I
we're
was gonna say,
constantly, yeah,
don't feel as if you're not right to do it, or don't feel as
right.
if that you're not the right person because you feel
Yes.
uncomfortable, because you will feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And even all of these years later, I still felt uncomfortable
Yeah.
every day. I mean,
Yes.
every day I have to give myself a pop top. And I have never threatened to quit a job more than I've threatened to quit myself. I mean,
Come on.
I have constantly,
Yes.
I think I have written letters of resignation like, Dear Randy, I can't take you in this anymore, right?
I
I'm in
love
my
that.
head, I quit all the time.
Yeah.
And I have tried to also fire myself. I mean, none of it
Yes.
worked, but I really want people to know. I think sometimes we feel
Yes.
we're not right because it looks on the outside easy for other people. And you're like, oh, they had it
Yes.
easy. Like, no, right?
Yeah.
I'm quaking in my boots, right?
Yes. I
Yeah.
love that. Love
Go
that.
forth. I feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes. Yes. And I think to your point, I come across a lot of people who do feel like because they're seeing the highlight reels of people on social media and anywhere in the media, they feel like that's what it's supposed to feel like all the time. And if I'm not feeling that, then I must be doing something wrong. Maybe I'm not built for this. Maybe it's not going to work. Maybe I need to just throw in the towel right now, not understanding, just like you said, it's an everyday journey. That's just part of the process.
Mm.
Every 24 hours, you're gonna be like, what? What? Why?
Right. You
You're
wake
gonna,
up asking yourself, can you do it? Then you have points throughout the day that you're stressed out. Can I do it? But then at night you're saying, oh, did I do that right? I shouldn't have said that. I probably should have done this. I mean, so there's more of that than the other.
yes, it's definitely a journey. And I think that rolls back to what we started out talking about, like your entrepreneur family and you, even with your son, thinking that, before you step into this, we're going to have to talk about some things because we and they carry that experience with them. It's kind of like, okay, it's not as simple as it may look to you, right? Because a lot of it is internal. So you weren't able to see their internal process, but they know what that felt like. Your kids can't see your internal process, but you know what that feels like every day. So I think that's part of the process, just letting people know that it is a spiritual process. It is going to test you in ways you can't even imagine because you're thinking, I think as pre-entrepreneur, I thought about the test as being, can I complete this task? Can I get this information? Can I gain this knowledge? Can I be smart enough? Right? Those things. It's that plus everything going on inside of me. You come face to face with your own personal fears, your own personal limitations you have in your mind, your own sense of self-worth, right? And that's not really what we think about when we first think about being an entrepreneur. We think about the processes, the business side of it, but there's a real personal side of it too. So,
And I mean, what I think you have to decide, what are you willing? We think about what we want to gain, because I'll have people say, "Oh, I want to be my own boss so I can work my own hours." But what are you willing to lose? And I had
mm,
not asked myself that question before, but you know, because there may be times where you're really broke, or you're borrowing money to pay. I had to borrow money at that time. Finally was a homeowner. I had to borrow money from my home to pay people, to meet payroll.
hmm
Uh, I cannot tell you how many sleepless nights. So what are you willing to give up? And I think that's a really powerful question for people to ask themselves, because, we do see the star that makes it, right? And it seems like an overnight success. But then when you hear that this person was singing literally on the streets, or going to
right,
coffee shops, or singing in
right,
subways, am I willing to do that? I mean, am I willing
right.
to do that? Because there's something about having the power. Like my husband said, I would never want to be in a situation where I could not count on my check. He
Mm,
said, I've never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I
mhm.
like to know my money's coming. And I
Right,
respect people who do that, because,
right,
be honest, because I think
right,
everybody says they want to be an entrepreneur, and
right,
to be real about it, say, am I willing to give up, and how much am I going to be
right,
willing to give up? Because there are some months, or I don't know what the business is, that you may not get a deal, that you
right,
may not sell any products. As a
right,
matter of fact, there most likely will be that. And so, what are you willing to give up, and is it worth it to you?
right.
Not
That's
saying
good.
it should stop you.
Right,
Then it prepares you when it does happen, like, okay, all right,
right.
I knew this could happen.
Yes.
I'm prepared that I'm not going to get a check this week.
Right, right,
And that's okay. And that happens. And having, the people around you who are entrepreneurs, who say, girl, yes, honey, I have been,
right,
yeah. And
right.
know that that's not unusual.
Yes. That's a lot of good points you just made there. One is being prepared in your mind to understand what might happen and how are you going to deal with that? Because if in your mind, your idea of being an entrepreneur is making money every single month and never having a month where you have to stretch things or juggle things or figure things out, then you might not be ready to be an entrepreneur, right? Or you may need to be an entrepreneur who has, after you have so much money, stashed and built up, then you may be ready to go to start being an entrepreneur because you got that behind you.
Absolutely. Or like most of us did it, where you have a steady job and a steady check, and
Yes,
you're an entrepreneur at night. Like, that's your
right,
side hustle. So you have to do that side hustle until you could be your full time. Because
exactly,
that's the reality of it.
right,
You know,
right.
sometimes the money doesn't come.
And then another thing you said that's very important is it's being able to have community of other entrepreneurs who understand the process because it's really difficult if you're just around people who have jobs, right?
Oh, it's so difficult.
They cannot comprehend, they do not
Oh, I do.
understand, and their first response is go get a job, right? Go
Yeah.
back to you can get hired, go back and
And
get a job.
they don't appreciate what you do. Like,
No,
I believe everybody thinks that I am at home watching. They don't have soap operas anymore, but watching soap operas, and what I don't think that they get, that And then, I'm always on my phone and stuff, and I'm working because
Right.
a lot of times I don't want to be on my phone, but it's
Right.
as I don't think that they get all that goes into it. And so you're almost you're the one that they call to run errands for them. Like, because, she has
Yeah,
nothing
you
better
at
to do.
home.
Right. Right.
You don't have a boss. You
You
can
don't
say
have anything
you
going.
got the freedom, just go do stuff.
Right.
You
And that's another tip is that you have to take yourself seriously too. So those people, and that means even with prices, like, so even your cousin has to pay the full price.
yes,
You
yes,
are running a business, and
yes,
even if they're not because they're not going to take you seriously until you take yourself seriously.
yes.
And also, like, what would you do at your corporation if you own a business? That means if you would do it for somebody else. So for yourself, okay, I'm going to answer emails from this time to this time. I'm going to do marketing from this time to this time. It is easy when you own your own business to say, well, I could meet
Mhm.
a girlfriend for lunch, and there is some of that, right?
Right.
But you have to run your business like it's a business.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So you have the schedule set. I know that is one thing that entrepreneurs struggle with. How do I set a schedule and stick to it? And how do I first design the schedule when there's so many things that have to be done? How do I determine what should be done first, as opposed to picking the thing that I like to do the most first, right?
Right.
Do the
Yes.
thing I like to do the most, but that's not really the thing that's going to bring money in. It's
Mhm.
just what I like doing. So it's a lot of self-development and discipline that
So much.
has to come into play, right? Because it's just
So
you.
much.
You are in charge of you.
Yes. Like I don't, it's funny, people don't know this, but I have to do a video a day. I try to do a video a day.
Mhm.
And I can't stand doing videos. And people say, yes, you no, you love it because they see me doing it.
Right,
So hard to do it sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's easy because I'm passionate about something I have.
right, right.
Sometimes it's very difficult and I feel extraordinarily shy and uncomfortable. But I
Yes.
tell myself, you have to do a video every day. And I will say, sometimes it'll slip. It'll be 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, you didn't do a video. I gotta do a video. So you have to have these like hard walls, standards with yourself because you're
Yes,
managing yourself.
right.
And that's hard to do.
It is. It really is. So when we talk about having all these different hats we wear and different things to do and have to have a schedule down and have to walk in the uncomfortableness of it and be disciplined and do what we have to get done. The flip side of that is having a balance or having an intention to make sure that we take care of our well-being too, because it can become very easy to blur the lines between business and personal, where there is like almost no personal,
Yes.
because all the time you're thinking about the business, you're planning something for the business, you're doing something for the business. So I'm very adamant about making us remember that we deserve to have to build wealth without sacrificing our joy and our health.
Yes.
So we deserve to maintain the joy we first had when we wanted to create this business, right? Also take care of our wealth, our health, and that's our mental and our spiritual well-being. Get the rest we need without feeling guilty while we are building this wealth. So what routines do you have or what self-care do you utilize to make sure that you take care of you in this process?
I'm all about the self-care. And
Ah,
remember, the
good.
reason why we started a business was for the benefits of having certain things like flexibility. So one thing I tell people, is I'm very comfortable working from my bed. That
Uh-huh.
right? That's a luxury to me that I have. That's my most comfortable place.
Uh-huh.
Comfortable. Some people can't, right? But I
Right,
have
right.
that desk that I love it. That's
Uh-huh.
something I can treat myself with, and it doesn't make it feel like such work for some reason to me. I can have
Uh-huh.
tea or my coffee, and I'm sitting there working, and that helps me. I do, and I don't like working out, but I pay a trainer because I'll stand me up, but I won't stand a trainer up.
Uh-huh.
So I do work out, but what I've really been trying to do is because I get a lot of I interact with people on social media a lot now.
Okay.
My biggest self-care is I put the phone away. It's
Mm.
hard sometimes. It is
Mm.
for me, it's so hard because I don't want people to feel ignored or I'm not thinking about it. And
Oh.
I will do my, like when I'll do one thing, like I'll end it and I put that phone when I'm out with my girlfriends and things.
Uh-huh.
Stop. Like I will not. And I literally hear my phone saying, Randy, Randy, I hear it. But I will put it away. The last two, I was just in Texas this past weekend, and I was in Miami 2 weekends before. I did not even take my computer.
Oh, wow. Good for
Yes,
you.
yes, I didn't take
Good
it because
for
I was
you.
going for the weekend, right?
Uh-huh.
I was like, I mean, I did have my phone so I could access if something happened important, but I did not take my computer. So I'm forcing myself because it's so hard. We're so
Yeah,
married to our businesses.
it is.
So I force myself to break up, like on pause. No, uh-uh. Yeah, I go with you real bad,
Right?
real hard. But I need some alone time.
Good
And
for
so
you.
I've been getting much better at that and realizing, surprisingly, that the world doesn't fall apart.
Right? Right? But I have to say the exact same thing to myself. I'm like, the world is not going to fall apart if you do this. If you
Right.
take off and if you go rest over here and take a rest, it'll still be there. And
Mhm.
then when I come back, I say, see, it's still here. Nothing, it didn't tilt or anything. It's still here.
Yeah, My
You have to
best
keep
friend,
proving it to yourself.
yeah, one of my best friends was an executive with McDonald's. And when people would get super stressed, would say, people, we make burgers. Okay. We are not saving lives.
Right.
And that's what I had to tell myself, like, girl, you are not a cardio, thoracic surgeon. You are not,
Right.
you know, if you miss a call, no one is going
It's
to,
right,
right?
right.
It's okay.
Yes, yes. But we have to remind ourselves of those things consistently.
Mm.
So, Randy, what would you say is the best advice you've ever received?
Honestly, going back to where we started, knowing your worth, really
Mm,
knowing your worth and constantly reminding yourself of it will allow you to ensure that you're practicing self-care, will allow you to set the price that you deserve, will
yes,
allow you to have the boundaries of how people treat you within your business, will allow you to not blend, friendships and business in a way that doesn't, respect your business. It
mm,
will lead you fully if you know your worth. And that is what having your business is about. It means that you have a service or a product that is you feel is worthwhile to offer to the world or to your audience. And so that means that you must believe that it's worthy and that you're worthy. And that
yeah,
should set the tone in everything. It also makes you, for people with whom you work or partner or have do something for you, it forces you to not accept mediocre results because
yes,
you're worthy of them working for you. So that knowing your worth, I believe, sets everything. It makes you take yourself seriously. Like
yes,
I'll tell myself, do you believe in what you're doing? So if you believe in what you're doing, if you think you're worthy, then why wouldn't you take yourself seriously? You would work harder for IBM that you would for yourself. You would give
right.
something to another company than you would give to yourself, and that means you don't think you're worthy. So
Mm,
it's that knowing your worth and reminding yourself of it because you must for survival all the time is the
yes.
greatest nugget I can give to everybody.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I have a group, Black Women Blooming, and we were just talking about this week self-esteem, how it relates to self-worth, and what's the difference. And self-esteem, we were discussing, is really based on what we receive from others. It's based on activity. It's based on how we do something and how it's received. But worthiness is innate. It's not earned. You don't have to earn it.
Don't have to own
It
it.
doesn't go up and down. It's never changing. So
Never.
your worthiness is something that is solid.
And no one can
So,
change your price. No one can set your price. And I'm using the word price,
exactly.
not no one else can set it but you.
Right, right. So once you have that in place, you're right. It informs a lot of other things that you do, your
Everything.
boundaries, what you
Mhm.
accept from others, because I'm worth more than this. I won't settle for that. It just flows into every single thing you can possibly do. So once you have that set at a very positive level, it saves you in a lot of areas, right?
Absolutely.
Reminding yourself about that. Wait a minute, it saves you
I'm
in a
worth
lot of
more
areas.
than this. Wait, what? Why am I
Yes.
accepting
Like,
this?
what did they?
I'm
Yeah, like,
yes,
they won't get my money. I'm going over here from now
right.
on, right? You're like, I don't even have time to argue with you about it. I
Oh,
just,
right. Exactly.
yes. So I love that. That is great advice. You're knowing your worth. Wonderful, wonderful. So, Randy, it has been before we wind down. I want to know, did you have anything else on your mind that you want to share that maybe I didn't ask or we didn't talk about, but it's something that you want to share with the audience or express? Anything you can think of?
That's such great questions. I just feel like the conversation's been great. And I've said what's on my heart that I want people to hopefully take.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. So to close out, I ask my guests about 4 or 5 fun questions so our audience to get to know them a little personally. So the first one for you is, if you could have a conversation with anyone from the past, who would it be and why?
Oh, the very easy answer, but probably just too typical. Of course, my mother's passed away now, so I would love to have some conversations with her. I definitely have some unanswered questions. I need her guidance. Because I'm still a child when it comes to,
Yes.
so like, what
Yeah.
should I do about so and so?
Right.
And I would love that. But gosh. But on the other side, like I would love to speak to someone like Prince, my favorite artist.
Uh-huh.
I have questions there. There'd be so many people because I mean the tagline in my company, it's time for a conversation. So I would love to have conversations with so many.
Got it. Got it. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Who was your favorite teacher and why?
Mrs. Burke in second grade because she taught me, she was the first person who told me that I could write well.
Ah,
Yeah, at
nice.
Hampton University's lab school.
Oh, very nice. I love that. It's usually someone at a very early age when I ask people that. It's remarkable how that sticks with you, right? That feeling sticks with you.
Mhm.
What was your favorite childhood game?
Hmm. I like Duck Duck Goose.
Ah, really?
I like Duck Duck Goose because I was pretty
Man,
fast,
you
and
were
the
fast.
suspense of it, I was fast, yes, and the suspense of it was good. Yeah, I like those kind of where you have to kind of be on. Or also, what was a chair? The when you're trying to sit down in the
Musical chairs.
musical chairs. I like that as well.
Wonderful. What is your favorite food or favorite meal?
I tell people I think I'm too greedy to make that decision. I really love food. It depends on what's happening. I do happen to love pasta a lot. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I love soul food, but I love
Uh-huh.
Thai food. I love really, I do. I mean, food is like my favorite thing. That's a hard one for me, but I will say I like savory over sweet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, let's see. The last one. If you could, well, what's your favorite place to travel where you've been or your dream place to travel that you want to go to? Either or.
Uh, every time I've gone to the continent, every time I've been to Africa, whether it be West or Eastern Africa, and I've been West, Northeast Africa, has been healing. It has been magical. Something that I have had to write about. The experience definitely. When people say life changing, they throw out that term so much. Life changing experience for me every time I've been. So places in the continent of Africa have been my favorite places to travel for sure. but I do travel is my absolute passion.
Ah,
And typically, I will tell people my favorite place is the place that I am currently at, usually. So, where I'm at that country, I'm like, oh, I love it. This is my favorite. Uh,
yes.
but in looking back, it typically is, I would say, the continent.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's beautiful. Well, again, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
being
so
here with
much.
us today. I love your transparency, your candid sharing, all the great gems you dropped. I'm definitely sure it's going to help our audience along in their journey to realize they're not alone. They're not the only one that feel and think the way they do. And we really need to know that.
Yes.
So
Well, thank you
again,
so much for having me, and thank you for everyone listening.
you're very welcome. Today's podcast is being sponsored by Your 90-Day Success Journal for Black Women Entrepreneurs by Linette Cottrell. The journal is available on Amazon. It's inclusive of monthly goals, weekly and daily goals, affirmations, self-care practices, and inspiring quotes from other Black women. Be sure to get your copy today. Your 90-Day Success Journal. Hey sis, so thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you got some great gems today from our beautiful Black woman entrepreneur. You got inspired to go do more. You got re-energized and refreshed. We want you to take the best care of yourself. It is our deep belief that we as Black women entrepreneurs deserve to build our wealth without sacrificing our joy or our health. So we deserve to have the joy, the health, and the wealth. And we love helping you to get there. Can be sure to leave a comment, rate our podcast, and share it with another beautiful Black woman that you know of. Visit our website at www.wocib.org and check out the great merch we have there for you and the workshops. We're working on some wonderful things for you. All right? We look forward to staying in touch, and until next time, be well.